Hello, everyone. Welcome to Figure It Out with Fatema. We are in season 6, episode 38 now, and I'm quite excited about today's episode. So I'll just give a bit of introduction, and I'll leave Joanna also to do the same because we're streaming on two different LinkedIn profiles today, and I want to make sure that people just know who's on the episode. So yeah, Fatema El-Wakeel here. I'm a data strategy evangelist. I'm so passionate about data strategy and emerging tech, so all the AI, digital twins, and all that, but also about how to create a career in this field. I'm also a part-time academic, so at the University of Cambridge was how I met amazing Joanne. And I'll leave her to introduce herself as well. But I think this episode, even before we start, is very different because this is the first time I was speaking that we're chatting about mindsets and actually how to set things up in your life and in your career. And I couldn't really get anyone better than Joanne to speak about, the mindset. She's a neuroscientist. She's super successful. Make sure to check her profile. But I'll maybe hand it over to you, Joanne, so yeah, you can introduce yourself as well.
Sure. Thanks, Fatema. So I'm Joanne Kenny. I'm a neuroscientist. I've been working in neuroscience research for probably about 15, 16 years now. Did a PhD in medicine in Ireland and used various brain imaging technologies to study the brain. Also working with machine learning and AI methods to study like big data, large complex data sets that can help us understand mental health and psychiatric conditions in a bit more detail. So really passionate about studying the brain. That is my main passion in my research. It's so interesting, so much to learn. Um, and yeah, I'm based with University of Edinburgh at the moment. And um, an aside to that, in a few years ago, so during COVID, obviously to navigate COVID and the stressors, I started doing a lot of yoga. After that, I did a yoga teacher training. So now I'm kind of working on developing my own yoga organization, but with a neuroscience slant. So to help people with regulating their nervous system, help people if they have anxiety, and understand their nervous system and their brain in a bit more detail, and how movement, activity, breath work, mindset, can help us to regulate our systems. Because we're living in very stressful environments at the moment.
So I love that, and I've seen like the amazing work you're doing, Joanne. And I think it is quite important for leaders and people who work in the corporate to really be mindful of their mindsets, of their surroundings, and
Mhm.
how, because a successful career is not only about delivering, it's about setting up the environment to be able to deliver.
Mhm.
But I'm quite curious to know how the brain works. So you mentioned a few things about stress and the environment and all that. So maybe you
Yeah,
can explain a bit about our brains and, you
of
know,
course. I'd love to. I actually brought a little model of the brain.
ooh, you and your props.
It's not the most detailed anatomically, but you're going to get the gist of it. So I'm going to give a very basic introduction to the brain, point out two structures. So we have our subcortical structures that are deep in the brain, and then we have the cortex that surrounds it. And in the front part, just above our eyes, is a prefrontal lobe, and that is where I suppose, when you think of your kind of conscious thinking, you plan your decision making, your cognitive flexibility, executive function, that lies in the prefrontal cortex. There's an area deep in the brain called the limbic system, or some people call it the emotional part of the brain. And these are kind of below your conscious awareness. So we don't have direct access to influence them, really. Like a lot of them, um, they're very involuntary. They, like, for example, you can't really see it there, but there's an almond shaped structure called the amygdala. And that is basically our threat detector, detects the environment we're in. It detects threat, whether it's real or kind of imagined. And then your body responds to that. So it sends signals throughout your nervous system to respond to a potential threat. Um, so the brain is full of interconnected networks. Prefrontal cortex is always communicating with the amygdala, and the limbic system, and the limbic system is always communicating with the prefrontal cortex. So it's telling us, you know, is this dangerous? Do we need to do something? Prefrontal cortex will assess it and say, no, this is just an email from my boss. We don't need to run away. Um, or if there's a car coming at you, you know, you don't want to, um, you know, you want your body to kick in and like flee from that threat. So it responds very, very quickly, but sometimes that's why it's hard to kind of takes a while to calm down, because there's more connections going from your limbic system to the prefrontal cortex than there is going back. So that's a evolutionary designed for survival, that we can respond really quickly if we are in danger. I suppose the problem is that, you know, in our everyday, we're usually not in life threatening danger, but our body is still responding that way. And that is, I suppose, where, you know, difficulties can lie, and people can get kind of anxiety and chronic stress.
That is that's really interesting, and thank you for explaining it because I think it made things a bit more clear on how the connection is. Um, but you also mentioned that you're doing yoga and breath work, and now my
Mm-hmm.
question is, because you've explained how the brain works, so I think some people get more stressed than others.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's a reason, but it also part of it is you can actually make yourself calmer. So you can manage the stress. So maybe can you explain a bit how you do that? Like,
Yeah, I suppose, like, you know, it's been shown through science that, you know, some yoga techniques, they can help things like reduce chronic stress, calm down your system, and breath work, and other yoga activities. So I suppose when we get in that chronic stress state, we move into a state of that fight or flight, the sympathetic nervous system, it's called, and that makes us. We all know that feeling when we feel sweaty, our heart rate's, you know, increasing. We want to just like run out of the situation. That is the fight or flight response, and um, the kind of contrary system to that is the parasympathetic nervous system, which is also called the rest and digest. So that's when we feel at ease, everything kind of slows down, it's safe to like socially engage, we might feel a bit more creative or playful. So by using techniques in yoga, breath work, you know, it's not a cure all, it's just like one technique people can use. um, we can help regulate our nervous system a bit. So we can help move from states of, you know, that chronic stress into more calmer states in our body. And we know now that the mind and the body are very interconnected. So by influencing how your body feels or how your body is, that can influence your mental state as well, and vice versa. You know, so it really is. You know, it's obviously we might need to work on our mindset or negative thinking, but also by influencing your body and your, you know, the well-being of your body, that can influence your mental well-being as well.
so basically, what you're saying is we can control our minds a bit, like we can manage it.
We have influence, yeah. You know, we're not kind of stuck as we are. You know, people used to think that that's just the way you are. You're just a stressed person, you're an anxious person, and, you know, maybe people are, you know, they have that disposition to be like that, but you can, you know, you can influence that. Like it's proven through, you know, research and science. You know, deep belly breaths, box breathing they use in like the army and firefighters and all that to kind of regulate their fear response. So you know, you can influence. You might not always feel calm, but you can definitely help, you know, reduce some of those chronic stress sensations. It's just one technique. You know, there's loads of other things you might need to change things in your life. You might need to find hobbies that, you know, give you more joy. You might need more social connection or less, or whatever your system needs at that time. But I suppose it's to get to know your own system, and you know, how you feel in certain situations. Is it giving you energy? Is it depleting you? And maybe you can move towards some of those things that, you know, give you more meaning and joy, instead of some of those things that are kind of chronically depleting you.
So I'm going to get into that in a bit, but I think the bit that I've maybe learned as well is like we can. Is it like? Let me think about. Is it like exercise? You know, when you go to the gym for the first time and you're not really performing that well, so you'll start to influence your mind. You might not be that well, and then you, maybe first time it's like 10% influence, second time is 12%, and then 15%. Can I think about it that way, as if it's a muscle that I'm training?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Like, I suppose one example is that when you're chronically stressed and you're in that sympathetic state, people tend to, it's done automatically. You tend to engage in, like, say, upper shallow chest breathing. So you're kind of taking slower breath or shorter breaths. And that kind of keeps the cycle going. It keeps you in that stress state. But you can kind of work to like break that cycle a bit. You know, if you practice deep belly breathing and lengthening exhales, it can kind of alter your how you breathe, you know. And it's just through repetition over time, find techniques that work for you that you feel comfortable doing. And it's small and often, little and often is what I tell people. It's not like you go to one class and everything's going to be sorted. You need to take these techniques, you need to do them at home yourself. You know, when you feel yourself getting worked up, getting stressed, what can you do in those moments to kind of regulate yourself? And then that creates kind of a, you know, a feedback to your body as well, that you can, you know, when you're in those stressful states, you have the tools that you need to, you know, calm your system.
Also, because I know that you're an academic, obviously you work at the university and all that, but you also have, as you said, your side hobby, which is your yoga, and you're kind of one of the very few people who does like yoga neuroscience. I don't know how you call it, but there is like you do like some special stuff, and
Yeah.
it's um and that people can find that on your website. Like I'm putting like a shameless plug here. So
Thanks for that, Matt. So yeah, the company's called Neuro Aligned Yoga. So it's
mhm.
born out of my two passions, which are, you know, obviously is well-being, but like neuroscience, and anything kind of well-being, really passionate about that and kind of sharing that with people. Um, so I run classes, I run workshops. It's not just doing a class, but it's also in the class, you know, we're learning about the brain, we're learning about the nervous system. You're tuning into your own like brain body connection and trying out different techniques and finding if it's something that works for you, if it doesn't work for you, or at least are there things you can take home to do yourself. So it really is kind of a, you know, for people it's self-discovery. It's time for them to, you know, how often do you give yourself time in the day to just sit with yourself and ask yourself, you know, how do I feel right now? And kind of allow that to come up and to like understand, you know, if I'm feeling good, if I'm not feeling good, what do I need to change? You know, usually we're just pushing through. We're so focused on productivity, um, which is, you know, what our brains do, but we kind of lose track that we're still humans. We still have kind of, you know, vulnerable nervous systems that are easily triggered, and that we need to look after them. You know, we need to look after our body and our mind. And yeah, so that's the neuro-aligned yoga business that I've been running for about 2 years now. Yeah, and I think it's there's a big demand for it. I think people really want to learn more about, you know, their well-being, and how they can reduce stress in their lives because it's so common nowadays.
It is so common, and I think it'd be useful if you can maybe share, like after the episode, if you can put in the comments, like the links to your page. And I know on Instagram also you share a few things um,
Yeah.
and I would say so. I'll just build on it because I think with the career as well, a lot of people speak to me about their careers, whether in mentoring, and so they says like they are very stressed or they don't know what to do. And I just want to pick on what you mentioned about the environment and the surrounding, and
Mm-hmm.
what we're just to make things clear for everyone who's watching. So guys, if you're watching, so if you're people watching, if you want to put your name and say hello and ask any questions, Joanna and I will make sure to answer. But I think what I want to make sure is that here's like some people have chronic like stuff that they need, like a doctor. So we're not speaking about those things, just to
No,
make sure for clarity.
not
So
medical
someone has,
professionals. No.
yeah. So if someone has a depression or like burnout that needs someone that's you need medical advice. We're speaking here about the people who might get stressed or burnout just because they're not managing or
Mm-hmm.
the environment around them. And I think one of the things that because I don't get stressed easily. I'm always excited. I want to get stuff done and I'm just running around
Mm-hmm.
and I think that distracts me from the feeling of stress because
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like I don't have time to get stressed. I need to get on with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a but you mentioned also the environment that we're in. And I
Yeah.
want maybe like to explain a bit about, like, can you elaborate a bit about the environment and how that impacts us?
Yeah, well, I suppose the everyone is so different, and everyone
Mm.
is, different dispositions. Some people thrive in certain environments. Some people are overwhelmed in certain environments. And so we have this like window of tolerance that people have where you're trying to reach that state where you're kind of, like you said, alert, energized, focused, but calm. You're not overwhelmed by the situation, I suppose. Um, so I think it's, what I've learned, like throughout my career, I used to be just always push through, do whatever needs to be done, bit of a perfectionist, and then I'd get exhausted or burn out or whatever. So um, I've really had to like assess and figure out, okay, what's if I feel exhausted in one setting or something, I'm just dreading doing something, is that something that I need to continue? You can reassess. We have an element of control that we can reassess where we are, and what kind of path we want to go down. I know kind of financial struggles might impact, certain decisions, but as much as you can is to kind of get to know yourself and what what gives you meaning. So is there something that can give you enough meaning, um, but that you're kind of comfortable doing, so that you have enough energy that you're enthusiastic about it, but you're not completely overwhelmed and depleted. Um, and if you are in those situations, what you can do to navigate that. Are there things you can cut back on? There's certain conversations that you can have. So, yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I think it's environment definitely does have, from my own experience, I know it has an impact on me. People around you, how they, their work ethic, are they overworking? And, definitely influenced by, the organization of the culture as well, has a really big impact on us. So it's getting to know how you are in those environments and maybe what you can do to sort of protect yourself a bit if there's something that overwhelms you too much, and can you, you know, change things a little bit. So it's as much as it is getting to know your environment, it's getting to know how you respond to those environments as well. And kind of listen to your gut, as they say. I think a lot of us don't. We tend to, like, we might be getting signals from our body, oh, I don't want to do this, or but we push through and we keep going and we do everything. We don't want to let anyone down. We do everything. We have to be perfect at doing everything, but we our body was kind of giving us that warning signal, and we didn't listen to it, and that's kind of where sometimes that stress can tip over into, it can be a bit more chronic. So I think it is listening to your body, listening to your gut, and kind of, yeah, just tuning into yourself. Really, I think we've kind of lost that, in the kind of current
Hmm.
workplace environment.
I think that is really, I love what you were saying. And I think, like, I give a couple of examples. I think, first of all, you mentioned about the culture, and the culture is not like, well, there is right or wrong. Okay. So we're not going to get again into those things. But what I'm saying about right or wrong is for a person. Because if a person wants a very calm environment or a very like different environment, it might not be able to work in a manufacturing, or it's just very different, and there isn't right or wrong. That's why some people say, like, I don't want to get into manufacturing. That's very
Mhm.
stressful. It's just like, okay, that is good, at least you know that that's not your area.
Yeah.
While for others they says, actually, no, I love manufacturing because it keeps me on my toes. Like, perfect, then don't go and work in hospitality. So
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with that. So I think this is the bit where, or I don't know, not session, like, don't work in an environment where it doesn't give you this kind of feeling.
Yeah.
So I think that's the bit. It's important to, I guess it's a lot, because a lot of people look at the role, look at the base, also the company culture. That's really important. And I know that you mentioned as well the environment as a whole, or the situation that people are in. So I think before you reach that stage where you're like completely desperate, or you're just like, I hate what I'm doing, like, there are normally signals and patterns. Like, you
Mhm.
could see yourself losing the energy and it's
Yeah.
draining.
Yeah.
And I think the people who are really very smart get those signals really early and just
Mhm.
be,
Yeah. They go,
uh,
nope, not for me. Yeah.
and I need to start doing something about it before I'm burnt out or
Yeah.
before I'm exhausted.
exactly. Yeah,
uh, because the earlier you start, the earlier you'll move out of that situation.
yeah,
And I'd give an example. I think I mentioned that to you because we've chatted several bit personally. Like I used to work in finance. I'm a qualified accountant by trade, and I used to love it at uni. It's like it's so much fun.
yeah,
But once I started working, I was like, oh my god, those long hours doing month end closing, and I'm like, I'm not made for that. I just can't like. Uh,
yeah,
it's just so boring, and
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not my personality.
yeah,
While when I moved to data and insights and analytics and emerging tech, oh my god, everything is changing every day. Like I can't keep up. And I'm like loving that because it just keeps me on my toes all the time. Like I
yeah,
wake up in the morning saying, what's new? What's happening? So obviously I was like, I enjoyed it at the start because I was solving numbers, but I was like, okay, I can't. It's like the month end is draining me, the routine, the so it's just, and I'm giving that, I'm speaking openly about my experience because I feel like a lot of people get stuck and they feel like, well, that's it, that's my degree, I can't move, or
mm-hmm,
been doing this for 5, 6, or 10 years. And
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but no,
No,
actually, you just need to change your environment,
yeah,
including your career sometimes.
yeah. I think it's to know that you always have choice. You know, you do have choice. And I know, as I mentioned, sometimes financial reasons, kind of, a lot of other reasons come into the career you're in. Might not just be the kind of getting the meaning from the job. There's so many other factors, but you do have choice in the situation. And obviously you can always say no to something. You can always pivot. Similar to you, I started off doing engineering, so my undergrad is electronic and computer engineering because I really like problem solving. But when I was working in, like, say, telecommunications or something like that, I was like, oh, zero interest in this. It was just, I found it so boring. And then I kind of, you know, it takes time. Like, this stuff doesn't happen overnight. It's a lot of kind of soul searching and stuff. But what I really enjoyed was the use of technology in studying people, in studying the brain, in studying, biology. So, I was kind of in the right area, the use of technology, but it was just that it wasn't applied to the right thing. So once it was applied to, like, studying humans, studying the brain, I was like, oh, okay, I love this. This is really interesting. So,
Oh,
um,
interesting.
yeah, nothing is wasted, and everything you've done will, like, help with new positions you're in or new careers. But yeah, you do have choice, and nowadays careers are not linear, which is kind of a good thing and a bad thing. But people move around very, very often, jumping between disciplines, jumping between different types of career, and you can try out different things. And yeah, I was just thinking off the top of my head. I don't know if you've heard of Kajigo. It's like a women in tech mentorship program. It's run in London, and Brav Bumber is the CEO. She takes on 100 ladies every year, so they want to move into tech. So they don't have a tech background, but they want to move into tech careers. Um, and she does such a good job at, like, getting them the confidence to move into working in tech. So um, yeah, there's so many things out there that can help you pivot if you want to pivot careers as supports. It's not easy, but you do have a choice.
It's not easy, but people do it, so it's doable. If someone does it, then it is doable. And I think that's the bit. Maybe if you even if you're watching this on like even not live and you're watching it later on, just like put in the comments, and Joanna and I would keep an eye and make sure that we'll answer the questions, and maybe if we have any, we can give any support, we'll do that. But I think I loved when you said it's like, yeah, you knew what's happening and you moved as well, and
Mm-hmm,
you picked what is suitable for you.
mm-hmm,
But also, you mentioned about sometimes there are things around us like financial circumstances or family circumstances. Some of us care for elderly, and I think one of the important things that if we want to really change the mind is this being aware of the current circumstances. And as you mentioned, like I loved when you said it's not, you might not change it straight away.
mm-hmm.
So it's just understanding that, okay, maybe what I'm doing now is to change in a year's time or 2 years' time. And I
Yeah,
need to put the groundwork now and start creating maybe my portfolio or learning a skill set or taking courses or
yeah. Mentorship programs. Yeah,
and I think some people are like, okay, well, I can't do anything about it now because I'm in financial stress. Like, don't leave your job, like manage whatever you're doing now. But
yeah,
it's just at least it will also put you in a better mindset because you feel like you're working towards something.
yes, Yeah, I think, yeah, as you said, it's the mindset. It's sometimes the hardest thing to know is what you want, what you want to
Mm,
do, or finding that, you know, like I was saying, what will give you meaning, what will give you focus, and obviously financial stability as well. But yeah, so it's getting the right mindset, and sometimes when you have a dream or a focus or something you really aspire to become, that can give you a lot of energy, that can give you motivation, that can give you that enthusiasm as well, that can help you move in those directions, towards, like, to get closer towards your goals.
yeah. And I think part of it, because we chat about the systems and the environment. So before we get into creating the systems, but I think even the environment is just being with the right people around you, like surrounding yourself with the right circle,
Mhm.
people who like motivate you, or be with the right friends, the right
Mhm.
circle. Because I feel like a lot of people, they don't realize that sometimes even if you want to move or you have certain aspirations or goals in
Mhm.
your career, if your surrounding is not supporting you,
Yeah.
you might not even be able to go because everyone is telling you, like, oh, that's not possible. It's like, you don't have that and you don't. So I think being aware of the environment also includes the people that are your support network, basically.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, but support is such a big part to play in it, and finding the right networks, so it can take time to find the right networks. But throughout my career I've joined a number of, like, women's organizations that support women in business, women careers, mentoring programs, and they really get me through the difficult times because they understand, they've been through it, they understand the complexities of the workplace, and they're very compassionate. So definitely, you need that support. You need people to understand your path and where you're coming from, and it can make such a difference, really. Too, and a lot of these organizations, there's no fee to join, or just go along to. There's so many events happening all the time. Go along to some events. You know, maybe don't call it networking because that seems kind of scary. It's not, networking is just turning up and having a cup of tea and maybe sharing a few words with someone. And then you never know who you'll meet. You might connect on LinkedIn, like you and me, Fatima, meeting at
Mm.
a entrepreneurial program, and
Mm.
then meeting up for a coffee, and then we're doing this.
Oh,
So, like, that was not pre-planned. It was just through going to this course we were doing, and meeting each other, meeting, like, realizing we were quite like-minded and kind of in overlapping areas. So, you just don't know what can come from just showing up, I suppose.
no, I think that's as you said, and it's just like we wouldn't have met if we haven't gone to that place and you know taken that course um and I think it's finding like-minded. You'll just find yourself with like-minded people.
Yeah.
So, but also you mentioned something because I'm aware of the time, and I think we just need to really wrap it up in a bit. But one last bit. It's the systems, because you mentioned systems, and I feel like systems is really
Hmm.
important because you're
Hmm.
kind of like you're managing your mindset through actually putting a system. And sometimes even if you don't want to do something, the
Hmm.
system is there and you have to do it.
Yeah. There's demands. Yeah. So yeah, I suppose it's, every organization has a different culture, a different system, different work ethic. They might, you might, over time, might be expected, that sort of thing. And yeah, I think just the more you work in different places, you get a feel for, like, every place has a different organizational culture and system. And yeah, there's tricky things. There's, in every organization, there's good things, there's things that are tricky, and it's to be aware of that. And I suppose, if you can look after yourself in those situations, as best as you can. So I think it's understanding how you are in those environments, what you can do to, get the best, optimize the best kind of, um, you know, work pattern for yourself, work productivity. But you can, have boundaries as well. You can kind of navigate that a little bit, and that's something you learn as you get a bit older. You can say yes to the things that give you energy or excite you, you can say no. So hopefully in places where that's okay, that you can say no to things. You don't have to do everything. Um, so yeah, it's so varied though. It's every organization is very, very different. So it is just getting to understand it, and you know how you are in that environment. Is it something that makes you kind of excited, maybe kind of pushes you a little bit, but it's not overwhelming you. And you kind of reach that sweet spot where you're like you were saying, you're motivated, you're excited, maybe you're doing a bit too much, but you're still, you're being productive, you're getting meaning from the work, um, but you can like take breaks, you can re-regulate yourself, and then come back to it when you've got energy. So yeah, it's a pattern each of us has to learn individually, and there is no perfect place,
Mm.
because everyone is so different. So it's just, I think the more you learn about yourself and what works for you, I think that is kind of finding that sweet spot, where you can find that place where you can be, the best version of you, essentially.
I think I'll take that and explain it a bit from a corporate, because I think in a corporate environment, a lot of people, when they do the job or they have a job, they think there's like, oh, but this bit of the job that's really annoying. And like, I've worked in so many jobs, moving around even within the same company. There's always like, I don't know, 15 to 20% that's really, really boring. Admin or things that has to be done.
Yeah,
And I think it's just changing that mindset of saying, well, this bit I need to do. And it's just, that's it. It's like doing laundry or,
yeah,
things like that. Like there are different things in life where you're just like, there,
yeah,
like we all hate doing, but
yeah,
if it's not done, you will not find something to wear the next day. So,
yeah. And
um,
yeah, go ahead.
no, so I think that's the bit where people think in a corporate job is like, I want a job where I really enjoy every minute.
Yeah,
That's not realistic.
yeah. And it's, I suppose, sometimes we forget as well, we can find meaning in outside of work. Like work is only supposed to be one part of our lives, and sometimes our identity gets quite caught up in what we do. But it's supposed work is just one part of your life, and if you can find meaning in other activities outside of work, where you can um, you know build some self-esteem, build some confidence, get some joy or meaning from them, then that'll ultimately like benefit as well when you're you know in the workplace doing your work, doing some of those jobs that you were mentioning. It doesn't always have to be meaningful. It's a
Mm.
job. So there are things that sometimes just are just part of the job, but you can find meaning in other areas of your life, outside of the workplace. It's just one piece of your life. It's not your whole life.
It's not, and I think I'm not saying that some like you need to find a job that brings you more meaning than the admin side. Like you don't want to be in a job where 80% really you hate, but you need to cope with the admin stuff and the things like that. But also from a system perspective, it's not only systems at work, because sometimes you need to manage. Like I love when you said like outside of work, there should be a system. There should be things that empower you, energize you, and
Mhm.
you just love to like you're an academic, but you have your side business and you have your yoga stuff that you're doing and you're
Yeah.
speaking at conferences and you're doing things that you
Or even
enjoy.
just like I'm learning a musical instrument, or it can be something just totally unrelated, that kind of, it's time where it's like it's non-productive, it's non-competitive, you're just doing it for the kind of enjoyment of doing it, and that kind of can let your system rest and get you back to kind of a nice balance in yourself as well. So yeah, it's finding that balance in your life throughout all the aspects of your life.
And sometimes it's doing things when you're not able to do it. Like we were speaking about the podcast today because we were
Yeah,
this, and I think sometimes we were like, we do it. We're like really like there's so much going on in life, but we were like, you know what? No, let's take the discipline and the system that you set because it's like no,
yeah,
we will do it. We'll get out and because it will bring us energy. Like for me, I love it. I really enjoy it. And I
yeah,
think it's the same for you. You just want to speak to people, help others, and I think those are the things. Sometimes it's just the discipline when you want to go to the gym, you want to read a book or to do a course when you're really so tired after work.
yeah,
But this discipline and systems just enables you because the next day is actually, it changes your mindset because you feel like, oh, actually, I've done my gym session today, or I've done
yeah,
that course, although I was completely shattered. And all of a sudden, you feel energetic. So I
Yeah,
think this is kind of really important.
totally. Yeah, agree.
Cool. So I think we've gone definitely over time. You, which is like,
Not too bad.
it's like not too bad. 5 minutes more, which is fine. But to be honest, it's really worth it because I felt like the bit at the end as well was like really important.
Yeah,
Um, and I genuinely enjoyed it because it's very
thank you.
different. It's just like, so thank you for being here and thank you for making the time and just, because I think career alone is not that easy to manage without managing your mindset and understanding our brain. And
Yeah,
as I said at the start, there is no one better than you really when it comes to that. We had lots of chats and I'm really very inspired by how you manage the brain and you explain it. And, you
thank
know,
you.
so thank you very much. Really appreciate that, Joanne.
No problem. No, these are things that have helped me throughout my career, and I just hope I can, share with other people as well.
Thank you for sharing it again. And for everyone listening, thank you for being here. If you're watching online and if you are watching on replay, thank you for watching it. Put the comments on the chat, and Joanne and I will make sure to answer. Um, Again, thank you again, Joanne. And
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, hopefully I'll see you, the listeners, again next episode. So till then, have a great time and enjoy your evening. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Thanks
Bye.
for listening.